In this video, we will take you through the assembly tutorial of this robot. First, use the countersunk self-tapping screws, Ka 2.6 × 12 to fix this metal component to the DDSM 400 motor. Then insert the black metal cup head hex socket screws M3 × 30 into the corresponding holes of this metal component. Next, place the wire of DDSM 400 motor in the groove of this metal component. Then use the black metal cup head hex socket screws M3 × 6 to fix it on the Cobra 1 metal casing. Organize the motor cable to appropriate length, and then put the springs onto the black metal cup head hex socket screw M3 * 30 semi-threaded screws. Lock the motor with black metal self-locking nuts M3. This section only displays the installation process of one motor. Next, proceed with the installation of the side structural components. First, insert the motor cable into the groove of the printed part. Place the 3D printed part in the corresponding position on the robot body, noting that the top and bottom of the printed part are different. Finally, use black metal cup head hex screws M3 × 6 to fix the Cobra 1 metal upper shelf, 2 to the robot body. Here is only the installation of one side of the body structure shown. The installation method on the other side is the same. And the same applies to the other side. After installing the motor, the next step is to install the UGV driver board A and wire the motor. First, use 4P to PH 2.0 male 4P cables to extend the DDSM motor cables. Next, fix the UGV driver board A onto the Cobra 1 metal body case using hexagonal copper pillars M2.5 × 16+4. Insert the motor cables into the corresponding positions on the board in sequence. Finally, connect the red cable of DC 5521 male to bulkhead black/red 18 #15 cm to the board BAT plus, and the black cable to BAT. Next, we will proceed with the installation of the robot's rear panel and OLED display screen. Connect the PH 2.0 cable to the OLED display first, and then put the acrylic into the slot of the 3D printed part. Note that the acrylic has different sides, with the side having the countersunk holes facing outwards. Then align the holes of OLED display with those of the 3D printed part. The OLED interface should face the bottom of the printed part. Then fix it with black countersunk screws M2.5 × 8 and metal nuts M2. Finally, use the black metal cup head hex socket screws M3*12 to fix it on the Cobra 1 metal casing. Next, install the robot switch and charging port. First, remove the screw from the 12mm high-head self-locking switch to XH 2.54 male 15 cm 18 cable. Then, pass the cable through the corresponding hole on the Cobra 1 metal main body case and fix it with the removed screw. Insert the 12mm high-head self-locking switch to XH 2.54 male 15 cm 18 cable into the switch on the board. Next, remove the nut of DC 5521 to XH 2.54 male 15 cm 18 cable. Then, pass the cable through the corresponding hole on the Cobra 1 metal main body case and fix it with the removed screw. Use the buckle plug head to plug the excess holes on the metal main case. Finally, connect the XH 2.54 male connector of DC 5521 to XH 2.54 male 15 cm 18 cable with the XH 2.54 female connector of DC 5521 female to double. Next, proceed with the installation and wiring of Robot Compute Board A. Turn the dip switch of Robot Compute Board A to the on position. Connect the 20-pin port of the Robot Compute Board A to the 20-pin port of the UGV driver board A. Then fix it with black countersunk screws M2.5x8. Next, proceed with the installation and wiring of the battery. Place the acrylic plate into the Cobra 1 metal main body case and align the holes. Then, the black metal cup head hexagonal screws M3x12 are passed through the fixing holes, and then the acrylic plate is fixed with the hexagonal copper pillars M3x21. Next, connect the battery wires by connecting the DC 5521 male connector with DC 5521 female to double. Connect the DC 5521 female connector with the DC 5521 male to bulkhead black/red 18 #15 cm. Next, organize the battery cables and place the battery on the acrylic plate. Place the pearl cotton on top of the battery. Finally, fix the Cobra 1 metal upper bracket with black metal cup head hexagon screws M3x6. Next, we'll proceed with the installation of the structural components in front of the robot. Place the acrylic sheet into the corresponding groove of Cobra 01 3D printed _front. Then use PA 2x4 self-tapping screws to screw into the corresponding holes. Install the assembled 3D printed part into the Cobra 01 metal front panel. Then remove the LED spotlight nut. Pass the cable through the corresponding hole in the main body case, then screw the nut back on. Use black metal cup head hexagon screws M3x12 to fix the assembled front panel to the robot body. Then screw the support pillars into the corresponding holes of the robot body. Use the black metal cup head hexagon screws M4x6 to fix the anti-collision beam. Finally, insert the cable of the LED light, the cable of the OLED display, and the Type-C cable into the corresponding holes of the board, and arrange the wiring harness. Next, we'll proceed with the installation of the structural components on the top of the robot body. First, place the silicone gasket in the corresponding groove of the 3D printed part. Place the acrylic sheet on the printed part and then put it in the corresponding position on the upper shelf. Then cover it with the upper cover plate. Use black countersunk screws KM3*10 to fix them on the upper shelf. Fix Cobra 1 metal upper shelf 1 with black cup head hex screws M3*6 under upper shelf 2. Place the assembled top on the robot body, with the cover plate side facing the front of the robot. Finally, use black metal cup head hex screws M3*8 to fix the aluminum profiles on both sides of the upper cover plate. Next, proceed with the assembly of the upper computer part of the robot. First of all, let's introduce the installation process of the Raspberry Pi. First, use a screwdriver to remove the black metal cup head hex screws M3*8 from the aluminum profiles and place them aside. Open the top of the robot. Install the hex copper pillars M2.5*5+2 into the corresponding holes. Place the Raspberry Pi 5 on the hexagonal copper pillars and fix it with silver metal screws PM2.5*4. Plug the USB cable of the lower computer into the USB port of the Raspberry Pi for communication. Next, let's introduce the Jetson installation process. Before installing Jetson, you need to remove the cover plate and take out the acrylic plate inside to facilitate Jetson heat dissipation. Unscrew the KM3*10 countersunk screws, then place the robot top aside. Install the hex copper pillars M2.5*5+2 into the corresponding holes. Place Jetson on the hexagonal copper pillars and fix it with silver metal screws PM2.5*4. Then plug in the power port of DC 5525 to supply power to the upper computer. Plug the USB cable of the lower computer into the USB port of Jetson for communication. Next, remove the acrylic sheet from the upper cover plate and reassemble the remaining parts. Then install the upper shelf of the robot back into the robot body. The Jetson cooling fan will align with the clearance design of the upper shelf panel for cooling. Finally, fix the aluminum profiles back onto the main body of the robot using the removed black metal cup head hexagonal screws M3*8.